Hello and welcome back to MindSpanse. I'm Craig, and thank you for taking some time with me today. I am going to talk about how nature has had such a deep impact on the way I look at the universe and my life and the life of people around me, and the concept of non-judgment. Such a non-judgment. And it's going to be fun. So let's take a deep stretch real quick and a breath. In through your nose, hold it for a second, and then slowly release. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, smile. And we're good to go. So let's talk about non-judgment first. So non-judgment is not judging, right? But it's more than that, right? It's more than just saying, well, you did this and I'm not going to judge. It's more like doing things with some expectation, right? In a sense, right? Like it's this proactive hammering the rock or something, something that's more than just non-judging of humans. It's much broader than that. And I think if you look at nature, it helps to understand the concept a little better. And so I'm going to use a couple of examples. So if you sit and look at like a forest and the layers of the forest, and so you have mosses and you have little plants and you have bigger plants and you have trees and everything has its place, and then you have each of them have root systems, right? So they're to some degree finding their way to get water and nutrients from underground, and they're all, I guess, competing for that. And they're also competing for sunlight. And each has its own path and everything does its own thing. And so I could argue, I use this because we perceive plants and trees to not be conscious. I don't know if I agree with that, but we do as a society. We say they're not conscious. We used to say that about animals too, but obviously that's not true either. And so because they're not conscious, they're not judging, and therefore the way they operate is totally true to their nature, which is very specific, which is they move in the direction where they can achieve the optimum sunlight given their surroundings and their environment, and roots move optimally to gather the most water and nutrients given their environment. And therefore they're not judging, they're not trying to hurt someone, or they're not doing anything with any particular grand scheme, although the scheme is their scheme, right? So there is this grand scheme, but it's the innateness of it, right? So they're playing out their innate programming. And I guess that is non-judgment. So we have innate programming, and then we layer on all this stuff. So we've altered our programming completely, and we have consciousness apparently, and I'd argue that everything has consciousness in it, but notwithstanding, that we have changed the way we our innateness, not changed it, but we've altered it to do this or that, and to get on the treadmill, and there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Like, it's all good. It's just, if you take on the role as the truth, that's when things get complicated, because then you create discord, you create stress. between the ego and the truth, right? And so as long as you know you're playing a role and then don't get caught in this role and believing that that's the truth, then you're fine. But unfortunately, we often become and believe that the role is our truth. And then we have many roles, right, in different scenarios. So then we have all these different truths, and they're all competing and fighting, and that creates all the noise, and everything's crazy. And it's all completely unnecessary. So non-judgment is sort of this releasing of all of that stuff and allowing sort of our truth to unfold again, and sort of smash away all those roles. There's another, you could look at rivers. I mean, great philosophers, they all talk about rivers and water and whatnot. Also, apparently not conscious, although now we're finding out that water actually retains a lot of imprints. So is it conscious? Is it not conscious? I don't know. Anyway, but it's not supposed to be. So like a river just keeps going. It doesn't like think about how to move around a rock, right? It just does. And it just does its thing. It just exists. The river exists, the water comes down and it goes through, and if there's a block, eventually it gets big enough and goes around the block, and it lives in this eternal, there's no time, right? There's no sense of, the river's not thinking about, I need to do this in the next 2 years, otherwise I'm going to be 30 years old, or I'll be 40 years old, and then what am I going to do? Now, we do have some of those constraints, potentially, because we believe we do. Maybe we don't. But certainly within the, our current existence that we all agreed to, that yes, we do. So, we have to make certain decisions, but in the, again, it's like accepting the role as the truth. It's like accepting these paths that we choose as the truth, as opposed to the timelessness of the river, of the movement of the river. What will be, what will pass, will pass. And I think oftentimes when we get to that place inside where we can really be true and where we can really be without judgment, that you'll find that things sort of work out. And the reason they work out is because you're acting in your truth, and so it has to work out because it's good, because what you're doing is good. It's good for you. It's true to who you are, and so it will feel good, and it'll feel right, and you'll be joyous, and you'll be energized. It's like when someone gets so into something, and it's like there's no more time, there's no more nothing. It just, they are so engaged in whatever they're doing, completely present, and just the joy of that engagement. That's sort of the non-judgmental state, right? You're just pursuing your path, your truth. And of course, which is why I always like to look at nature, because even though I personally think that there may be consciousness in nature, it is a great metaphor for manifesting the programming, the original programming, right? So being the truth of who you are. So I wish you an amazing day. Please subscribe to my channel, share this with your friends, like the video, and if you have any questions or comments, I'm always around. And I'll look forward to many, many more videos and thoughts. And I wish you incredible, incredible journey. And take some time and look at nature, like deeply. Look at it, like really deep. And just stare and think about that. And little by little, you start to say, well, that makes sense. So have a great day, and thank you again for taking some time.